What's up, YouTube? Look, check it out. We're back at it again. So today, we'll give you some more information dealing with how to build your gym from zero. One thing I want to make sure is that I be transparent as possible because I know somebody out there was in my shoes. Again, coming out of college, trying to figure out what you want to do, how to start a business, what it takes and so forth. It's not easy, but it's doable, right? And I think that's true for anything that you want to be successful in. So just because it's not easy don't mean you can't do it. And if it is easy, everybody doing it, we heard that before, that means it's oversaturated, right? But the gym industry, again, as long as there's people being born, as long as people eating bad, as long as people not taking care of themselves, the gym is always going to be a necessary evil, basically. Because what we do is we put people through some things, right, physically, but we get them better. And I think, honestly, that we deserve more respect. And when you talk about doctors and what they can do for people and all the healthcare and so forth, trainers and what we do, we try to keep people alive, basically. Like, we're trying to help you extend your life. We deserve more respect. But let me stay on topic before I start ranting. All right, so I want to talk about, like, the business aspect of it. I want to be transparent about, like, finances in a sense, right? And everybody coming from different situations. I'm talking about people who are building from zero. So if you're getting bank loans and you got, your father's money and you did whatever to get money, you already starting out ahead of the game, ahead of the curve, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people who are actually like building from ground zero, using your own money, using your salary, using things that you had to sell off to get started. Like you have a passion for this industry and you trying to get started without all of that. That's what I'm talking to, right? And so and nothing wrong with the people who get bank loans, and I know people who got $300,000 loans, started gyms and failed, right? $300,000 and failed. So just because you get money don't mean you're gonna be successful. So, but I'm not talking to that audience. I'm talking to the ones who actually have to build from scratch, like I had to do. That's what I'm talking to because I understand that track. I understand what it takes to get there. So, what I want to talk about is, in the beginning, what you can do. In my last video, I told you, you can start boot camps, start to generate some income and so forth, right? I talked about that a little bit, and I can go into more detail if I see it in the comments, somewhere in the comment section. I'll get to that too, like even more detail on boot camps per se. But I'm gonna say that you already got out there, you got your feet wet, got your hands dirty, you started building up, your people, and now you got people coming. And I'm talking to you at this point right now. Right, so you got some income coming in. You have a couple personal training clients, might be your higher end tickets. You might even be doing some online training for some people who know you or whatever. You got money coming in is what I'm saying. So you're not completely at zero at this point, right? The struggle of going from zero to having something, I feel like is easier than it is going from having something to trying to get something more, something major. What I mean is, if you going from zero to making $2,000-3,000 a month, that's not too hard. Like you can get that done pretty easily if you just put the work in, right? But trying to grow into a company and have a gym and things of that nature, when your overhead, depending on where I'm in Dallas, Texas, your overhead is going to be up there, right? So I'm talking about going from 2-3K a month to now you're going to have to pay, 7 to 10 to 15,000, maybe 20,000 in rent just in a warehouse. That's a different level. So that going from 2 or 3,000 a month to having it on your minimum, bring in 7 to 10K a month, that's a bigger jump and a harder jump than going from that 0 to that 2K. Because at that time, you don't have that much responsibility. You're doing boot camps. You just got to pay for maybe your vehicle or whatever it is that you're paying for. You don't have to pay overhead and bills and taxes and all that type of stuff. So it's a bigger jump and it's harder. So what can you do to kind of I guess, insure yourself, right? What I would do is I would take it slow and I would stay at that boot camp level as long as possible, and I would max that out. Like I would get that to the point, at least to the point where I know I have a good enough cushion that if something happened, I can still pay my bills, I can still feed my family, or whatever the case may be, before I jump out there and try to get a building in a business. And I told y'all this is always going to be live, so at the time I'm training too, so I'll be going back and forth, but I'll make sure that you still get the information. So what I would do is I would try to build that cushion as much as possible. How did I build my cushion? Fortunately, I was able to do boot camps and training and things of that nature, but I also had to work as a trash man at the same time. If you go back to my origin story, I talk about how I was a trash man and I had the trash on my back coming down a flight of stairs and trash dripped over my face and onto my mouth, and it put something in my spirit to make me start working harder. But before I got to that point, I was doing trash work, I worked for a company where I did recycling. We would go downtown to pick up, big buckets of heavy glass and paper and things of that nature, but I was making money. And I also worked for a trash company. We would go to apartments and we would pick up trash from door to door, right? And do this all night long up until midnight. And so there's, certain things that you can do within your city based on your resources to generate the income before you step into this. And unfortunately, I didn't have the luxury of waiting because while I was working for another company, I told that company, you know, as they pulled me into the office and asked me, are you building your own company? I told them yes. And so they had told me to make a decision, whether you go build your own business or build our business, and I made the decision to build my own. So I didn't have the luxury of continuing to stack, but I started the process of stacking. And so what I would say is, you ready? I got you. No, I got you. So what I would say is, continue to stack. So I didn't have the luxury to continue to stack because I made the choice to go ahead and jump out here, start my own business, and do my own thing. But my advice to you is stay at, I don't care how bad the job is. I don't care what they paying you. You have a job, you got income coming in. So keep that income coming in before you step out there. Because once you step out here, now the responsibility is on you. I got you. Ready? 3, 2, 1, let's go. That responsibility is on you now to make sure the bills get paid, the taxes get paid. Like, these are things that matter. Stuff come up. Out here in Dallas, we're not used to having freezes. 10 seconds. We're not used to having freezes. And I built my gym out of a warehouse, right? So you got to imagine the first year, how many exposed pipes and so forth. 2, 1 for shots, exposed pipes. Just right over here to my right, we had pipes burst from the freeze, right? That was the first year freeze. The second year freeze, we had pipes burst upstairs. So every year, these are things that are happening. And that's just a couple things. That's a major thing because I have 30-foot ceiling. So we got to get lifts and all type of stuff. Like, it was a headache. 3, 2, 1, let's go. And had I had cushion, had I had cash set aside and things of that nature where stuff like that pop up, it don't matter. But mind you, I was grinding at the time. I didn't have weight sets in here yet, right? I didn't have all the stuff that I have in here now. So we were still grinding. Boot camps matter. Like, I was doing indoor boot camps basically. 3, 2, 1, relax. I know that hurt. But we were doing indoor boot camps. Like, we were literally trying to still build a business while things were happening. So had I had that cushion, had that money put up, I would have been better off. And so my advice for you is to write down the plan, write down the vision like everybody talk about, know what you want to do, and have that as a goal. But make sure when you're doing that, make sure that you say, okay, I am willing to sacrifice in the work for this amount of time to stack up this amount of money so that when I get into this building, I know it's going to cost me to do this. Depending on how you want to build, George. If you're trying to build there's a company out there, I won't mention them. They pretty much do indoor boot camps. They have high overhead because of the neighborhoods they choose to go in, but then the equipment that they use is not that expensive. You can afford to do the same thing they do, right? So you can afford to do the same thing they do, set up a boot camp, because all they're using is ropes, kettlebells, a couple dumbbells. Like, they don't have power racks. They don't have all the stuff that I have in here, right? You can do that. But then you got to pay for the overhead in an expensive neighborhood. So it don't really work out for you because you don't have enough capital to pay that overhead, get people through the door, and then try to, run your company and go buy groceries. Like, it's just too much. So my advice is take it slow. Stack as much as you can, stay on that job as long as you can, get as much money as you can, have as much cash, be your own bank, understand what you can afford, and then go that route. And then my second thing with all of this is the location. I chose the location as far as, like I told y'all, they should consider this the hood, right? But they have plans on building this up, and they're doing it right now. So having the foresight, understanding, yes, this is the hood, but that the hood's going to come up because of gentrification and all the other stuff that happens, understanding, hey, we can get in early before it gets to that. Let's go ahead and do it. And not only did we get here in the hood, right, which is now Trinity Groves in Dallas, not only did we get in early, we also got into a space that allowed us to just build how we wanted to build. So I didn't have to go get the fancy building. I didn't have to go get the high rise. I didn't have to do all that stuff. I got a warehouse. I'd spin the camera around for you that you kind of check some of it out. As you can see, it's a warehouse. We got the big glass in the front. That's probably the most luxurious thing that we have is the glass, right? We got a loft upstairs. We got the rain here, whatever stuff that we put in here. But for the most part, it's a warehouse. So we got another side over here in the back where we have BJJ getting ready to move to. They're currently upstairs on the balcony, right? And so it wasn't like I chose the Taj Mahal as a gym. I chose a space that I can get in and that I can build. We can make it work. I don't care how rough and how rugged it is. I'm gonna take it. It fits my personality because, again, at 12 years old, I built my own weight set in the backyard with crates, plywood, broomsticks, right? So I don't need a whole lot. And then when I went to high school, my high school didn't have weights. We were pushing trucks around the track, right? Doing pull-ups, push-ups, carrying logs. So I came from an environment, Rocky almost like Rocky, right? I came from that type of environment where we're going to make work what we have. That's it, point blank, period. And I'm coming after you, right? So I took that same mindset in the business. I don't care what you have. I don't care if you got the bells and whistles. I don't care if you are handed down a gem from some. I don't care what you have because I'm not even competing against you. I'm competing against what I can do. And I know I got an innovative mind. You give me the right space, I'm going to make it work. I did boot camps outside. Are you kidding me? I can do something indoors regardless of what it is, right? And so what I'm telling you is two things I would do. I would stack up my money as much as possible, and I would choose a location that's going to allow me to work and to grow. If you can do those two things in the beginning, you have an opportunity for success. It's your boy, Coach D. Make an excuse, I'll make a way.